Recording. And everybody, welcome to Astrology Unplugged. I'm Rick DiClemente. If you've not joined us before, this is about show number 187. I am an astrologer in the Pittsburgh area. I've been doing this about 42 years. I'm semi-retired. I've got a book of my own. I do readings for people. And if you've not joined us before, the reason we're called Unplugged is because we talk about different topics all the time. We have psychics on, we have numerologists on, we have mediums on, people with related categories. It all depends on what's happening. Sometimes certain things are happening in the world. We analyze the astrology of that. Now, tonight I'm going to talk about patterns that show up when reading a chart about archetypal shifts in a chart, archetypal natures in a chart. For instance, this came about to me this week because I read about 3 days ago for a young man who was very, very interesting, very advanced for his age, intelligent, but he had two or three or four significantly strong, different archetypal themes. And I'm going to talk to you about how you read that, because that's not easy. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple of things to begin with, and we're going to go over this over and over. This is the book my girl and I wrote. It's called The Exquisite Zodiac. This book is about, it's not a beginner's book. This book is about the essence of each sign, how Aries shifts into the sign of Taurus, how Taurus morphs into the sign of Gemini, how Taurus morphs into the sign of Cancer, etc. The book is very deep. It's also for beginners, and it talks very down deeply about the essence of the sign. When I talk about a Scorpio, I'm not talking about the Scorpio you know. I'm talking about Scorpio itself. What is the sign like? It's got its pluses and minuses. Actually, they're all pluses, and we make up the minuses because they're all just energy. So this book is very, very important for people to read because there's nothing like it out there. And it talks about one sign morphing into the next sign. Hi, Linda. Okay, now this is a real must. The other book that's a real must out of our library, we've given away over 300 books because we're doing our own thing now. This book is an absolute must. This is Stephen Arroyo's book called Chart Interpretation, okay? Stephen Arroyo, his handbook, Chart Interpretation. He is retired now. He's probably in his late 70s. He is the man when you look at American astrologers. It's either Stephen Arroyo or it's, in my opinion, Richard Tarnas. Now, Arroyo was very busy in the 70s. He's a Libra. He's an absolute expert at relationship astrology. You can look him up. He's got a lot of books written. Very good for beginners. I've been having a lot of beginners address me this week. What do I do? What do I do? Well, good luck, because it takes a lot of study. I was just talking to John. John said, boy, it takes a while, doesn't it? I said, yeah, it takes about 20 years to get pretty good at it. My students, the really good students, are ready to talk astrology and do basic charts around year 3. But that doesn't mean they're much good at it because it's just really hard. There's so many symbols conflicting, and you got to keep things straight when you're reading. Now, the reason this book is important is because people are lazy. Okay, I'm going to make sure I forgot to mute everybody. There we go. All right. Now, the reason this book is important, people are lazy. People get mesmerized by me talking about stuff. They hear all the words flying by. They hear all the experience flying by. But then you stop and you ask the person, do you know what Venus next to Saturn means? No. Do you know what Mars opposite Uranus means? No. You've got to learn some basics. And I'm not getting on you. Some people want to watch this show and they want to just hear about astrology and pick up what they can. But if you're trying to get better at doing astrology, you have to know your tools. Now, you don't have to start out by making a hutch. You can start out by making a box. Okay, and you need to know what Venus opposite Saturn means, as opposed to Venus opposite Pluto, as opposed to Venus opposite the moon. You have to know something basic from where to start. Because when you start with these archetypal mixtures, you're going to be wrong a lot of the time until you play with it a while. What's an archetype? An archetype is a force from God. It is a pattern from God that Plato called the, oh my God, what's it called? I can't even remember what he called them. Anyhow, if you're going to say something, Linda, you have to unmute. You have to unmute yourself. The forms,
I was just going to look it up. That's all. I'm looking up.
Called them the forms.
Okay.
In other words, there are forms out there that are rays coming from God that have patterns and have their own individuality. Okay? And they flex and they grow and they're like this, such as the archetype of the clown. You know what the archetype of the clown is like, the archetype of the fool, the archetype of the bully, the archetype of the inventor. Archetype is kind of like a stereotype, but it's got a form to it that the actual entity conforms to. These forms are always changing. You could talk about Venus. Venus is an archetype of Venusian energy, Venusian type of archetype. You could talk about Taurus. You could talk about Capricorn. Each of these have their own archetypal flavor. Okay? So when I talk to you about what does it mean when Neptune is opposite your sun? Well, you can't just go in your mind and dream a little bit about it. You got to have some idea of what's happening when these two archetypes meet, because they're real different. Okay? That then and only then can you even have the possibility to start interpreting a chart. Because a chart is a compound mixture of 10 or 11 planets in 12 signs in 12 houses, making a myriad of aspects to each other. So it gets really complicated. So if you don't know what Mars is like next to Jupiter, as opposed to Mars opposite Jupiter, how are you going to go any further with it? You're going to have some clues, but if you want to get better, that's what's so good about this guy. He took an old book that I mentioned before a few weeks ago, an old German book, which is the classic for years. It's been very much outdated and poorly translated. It was by Reinhard Eberton. Reinhard Eberton. And it was written in the 20s or 30s. It was called, in German, A Combination of Stellar Influences. And in that book, he combined Mars with Venus, Mars with Jupiter. He put the positives and he put the negatives of in a natal chart or by transit. And he also put a third planet there. What happens if your sun is in between Venus and Mars? So it got very complex. It was ahead of its time. It's really pretty bad with interpretation. You got to use a whole lot of salt when you use this book. And for that reason, Arroyo did us all a favor and he rewrote it from his own perspective. And not only is this excellent, it tells you everything about these pairings, but Arroyo is really good at being down to earth. Arroyo tells you that he did me such a favor from 78 on, because he tells you what the possible combinations are. He tells you what the theoretical combinations are. Then he talks about what's probable. What's theoretical? What's probable? Because most people can't express the pure archetypes. You see one or two in your lifetime, clients like this. Most people, you see the potential in this aspect, then you got to water it down a good bit, put salt all around it before you start to see how it's working in their personality. Because most personalities don't have the ability to express these pure archetypal forces clearly. So let's get started. You'll start to see what I mean. What I'm talking about is like when you read a chart, and I've told you many times that most of us think we're a Leo, we think we're a Virgo, we think we're a Libra, but that's not the way it is. And that's what this awful astrology, sun sign astrology, has left us with. The irony is if it weren't for that awful type of sun sign astrology, we wouldn't even be alive. Because of the ego. I'm a Capricorn, I'm an Aquarian, I'm a Pisces, I got a Pisces rig. What did they say? What did they say in the newspapers in 2011 when there was this fear all over the world that there was a 13th sign and the zodiac was going to change? What did everybody say? What did everybody say? Oh, I got to change my tattoo. Oh, what do you mean I'm not an Aquarian? What do you mean I'm not a Scorpio? You know, it's so selfish and so ego-centered, but it kept us alive. It's like noses. Everybody's got one. Well, just about. Like noses. Except for Tycho Brahe, he didn't have one. His was made of copper. Long story. Okay. So the archetypes, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, those are archetypes. They have forms. Now, when you're reading a chart, it's very common, like in my chart, I have a lot of it's very common to have 5 or 6. Most people have 4 archetypes real strong in their chart, 4 or 5. Very few have 3. Most people have 4 or 5. That means you have a lot of other signs in your chart because of your Venus and your Mars and Jupiter and all that. In my chart, I have not much Aries. I got some Aries. I got a whole lot of Libra, Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. A lot. And some of those get along, some of them don't. Those are the themes in my chart. And you discern what is a theme only after doing advanced astrology, looking into it for a while to see why that part is really strong. This part is kind of weak. So it's very common to have a chart like Linda's, for example, that has a lot of Libra in it, has Cancer in it, it has Scorpio in it, and other aspects, Leo. Those are very common to have 4 or 5, but it's very uncommon to have 3, very rare, or to have 7 or 8. Now, I've seen them, but that's what happens. So let me bring this guy's chart on board. We're going to look at this guy's chart. I call him sample 1. I've taken his name off the screen for privacy purposes. And I'm going to show you what this guy came to me, and I looked at his chart. I didn't know what to do with it, but I didn't give up. I even had a chart last week that flummoxed me. I mean, I was floored. I had no idea where to go with it. So I want you to know that in your elementary stages of astrology, it even happens to me. And I had to work and work and work and not let myself run away. And I stuck with it and I got it, but it was really difficult. And some charts are that way. Now take a look at, let's get rid of this astrology, astrocartography that I had on the screen. Okay, let's get a hold of this person I named Sample 1. Okay, here's Mr. Sample. Okay, now I want you to just start gently with me. As I always say to you, use a pencil, not a pen. This kid is 29 years old. He's going through his Saturn return right now. Saturn has gone around the chart. Okay, it's about return now. It's return is backed off coming again. So your Saturn return is not one moment. It goes on all year. He is a Pisces, very pleasant person. He's got Gemini rising, and he's got a moon in Aries. Okay, not only is this guy intriguing, but he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 planets in Aries. Okay, now what do you know? So you don't even, hi Waldo, you don't even have to go far. Okay, he's got some Pisces and a whole lot of Aries. See? Well, you got to say to yourself, what does that mean? And that's where this book is so important, because it explains to you the theme of a chart, of a sign. It explains to you where it came from, why it became what it is, and what it gets stuck at, and how it goes on to the next sign. because every sign has a very difficult time with the sign before it. If you're a Virgo, you're going to have a tough time with Leos. If you're a Leo, you're going to have a tough time with Cancers. And that's why you are what you are. So, what's the difference with this guy? Well, this guy's got a lot of Aries and a lot of Pisces. Now, here's what's interesting about that. I got to say this safely and intelligently, so it's not a bias. The early signs and the early planets of the zodiac are symbolic of childlike energy. Very childlike, very simple, pure, and lovely and enjoyable. And when you're around an Aries and when you're around the Taurus, when you're around the Gemini, usually you feel real light and you feel real pleasant with these people because they're very non-complicated, usually, unless the rest of the chart is complicated. They're very plain. And by no means do I infer boring. They have a simple nature. I wish I could give you some good examples. You just feel good around them because they're not complicated. They make you, basic. They make you feel very drawn to the innocent side of yourself. Now, on the other hand, at the other end of the zodiac, after you go through Scorpio and Sag, the zodiac gets really, really complicated. And you get to the final stage of Pisces, and the Pisces stage is so incredibly complex. There are two sides that are really, really complex. Maybe three: Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces. Here's the reason Pisces is so complex. Because the soul has gone through, symbolically, through 11 stages, and then it ends up at Pisces. And in the Pisces stage, the only work to be done at that archetypal stage is to give up. Because you've been fighting for 11 stages to be a stronger ego. There's nowhere else to go. Because the 11th stage of Aquarius is symbolic of the total man, total woman. You got it all together. You don't need anybody. But you're not satisfied yet. You're not full yet. You're not what John was talking to me about on the phone. You're not in any advanced state. So the only where to go as an Aquarian is to let go of selfhood. Only when you let go of selfhood do you merge with the divine in the 12th and final stage of Pisces. Now, this is theoretical. Now, when I wrote this, the working title was Pisces, the Ultimate Sign. And what I meant was not they're my favorite. I meant that archetypally, things start out simple in Aries and they evolve through the zodiac until they get to the final stage where this stage of Pisces reincorporates everything and becomes the allness. But I didn't think people would understand it, so I changed the title. Okay. And I was right. They wouldn't have understood because a lot of Pisces are really messed up. A lot of Pisces are really messed up because it's a really hard sign to be. It's really hard to be because your essence is to not be. How can you be something when your essence is to not be? That takes a sophisticated mind. Now, what's so interesting is this guy we're examining has a lot of Aries, which is me, I'm going to do, look at me. And he's got this Pisces, which doesn't care. Okay, so automatically you got two conflicting archetypes. It just so happens, and Liza and I have talked a lot about this during the writing of this book. She's my partner. It ends up that the Aries-Pisces combination is actually marvelous. Not Ben Franklin, but Thomas Jefferson, Ram Dass, some of our greatest writers ever. And the reason why is the Aries is all about, I'm going out there, get out of my way, and I got places to go and experience. Woo! Nothing's complex. Aries can't stand complexity. Can't stand it. Get out of my way. I'm going to go do something. Pisces nature is all about laid back, let it happen. It's all right. It's all fine how it is. So you see some phenomenal writers who, and phenomenal, what's the guy in St. Lawrence College? Joseph Campbell. Another example of the Aries Pisces. Einstein, Aries Pisces. And it's because they have the fire of the individual and the real passion of, wow, the love of life, and the advanced nature of Pisces, which can just intuit all this complex quantum stuff, but nothing's in between to mess it up. And meanwhile, all the Aquarians are pulling their brains out, and the Scorpios are doing all this theoretical stuff, and you look at their face, and your face looks crooked. I'm a very, very big believer in facial shape. I spend a lot of time looking at people's faces. When people's faces are crooked, it means they've been doing a lot of fighting inside, good or bad, unless there's something wrong, organically. Look at a baby, how symmetrical, how beautiful to look at. But I've already given you the names of some really advanced people. Aries, Pisces. So, essentially, the Aries has the ability to just be itself, and the Pisces doesn't mind. There's nothing in between, and the Pisces adds this wisdom. Now, whenever you have an opposition, like we talked about last week, we talked about somebody with Venus opposite Neptune. Okay, when you have two planets in opposition, and when you go through Arroyo's book and you read about planets opposing each other, what do you do with it? You don't just throw it out there. You don't just mumble it. You don't just scream it real loud. You got to understand what you're doing. You got to blend the mixture of two archetypes. Now, when you get really in your old age, and I'm approaching there, when you get into your old age, you start to find out that all these archetypes work together, that we're really just one being. We're a simple being that's very complex. We're a simple being that's very complex. Even that statement's got conflict in it. So you got the Aries that wants to be all this stuff. What is Aries all about? Aries is about God saying, I can't experience it myself unless I'm separate from myself. I'm all these things, but I can't be myself unless I'm out there. So I have to manufacture, kid myself, and jive myself, and create this mythical figure out there, and there is no out there, so that I can appreciate it, separate from myself. And that what all the holy books tell you, every single one that's worth a grain of salt, tells you that separateness is the problem. I don't have to tell you in the year 2020 in the United States of America, I don't have to tell you about separateness, which is the king. So when you deal with an opposition, there are going to be conflicts. There are also going to be good things that merge. You got to get this early astrology book junk out of your head. Well, Venus is opposite, let's say Mars is opposite Saturn. And it's bad because it's blocked energy. Mars is opposite Saturn. Well, it's also good because it gives you stamina. And it's frustrating. And I call it driving with your brakes on. You're driving, but your brake is on. But you're driving, but your brake is on. But you're driving, but your brake is on. That's why I repeat these things to you all every week. Because that's what goes on in the mind. Mars is opposite Saturn. You got to drive carefully, driving with your brakes on. Okay? Or some people stop driving. They get so discouraged. Or some people drive and they don't care and they run into stuff. But an opposition, even two planets, has its negative poles and its positive. So keep that in mind. So what do we see with this young man? All this Aries and all this Pisces. He's got this child. Actually, he's really heavily into music and writing music. And what I was floored by is I kept hearing him say, all through the reading, I kept hearing him say he's a musician and he really wants to go on the web and go to places and play his music, like keyboard stuff, and he wants to be accepted. And I was really making a mistake because I was thinking down one trail, and that's why you got to be so careful not to go thinking down one trail and would get what's called tunnel vision. But he kept saying that he wanted to be accepted. He wanted to be accepted, and he was really feeling bad because he was starting to turn these people off. If you don't like my music, too bad. Well, he was liberating himself. You don't like my music? Too bad. He was liberating himself, but he's feeling bad about it. Well, you got to listen to the words people use. And that's why this book is so important, because you understand what the nature at down deep is. Pisces can't stand making somebody feel bad. Why? Because Pisces are you. There's no difference. Pisces is not here and you're over there. They only understand oneness. Aries only understands separateness. Pisces only understand oneness. So this is why it's so important to get your archetypal knowledge down fast. So I keep listening to him and he keeps talking about this. Now he's a musician and he's playing all kind of stuff, plays all different keyboards, all kind of instruments. Let's go back to his chart. All right. So we see in his chart, Mars is rising in Gemini. Okay, Mars and Gemini, what does that mean? I don't know because I haven't done any studying. What Mars and Gemini means is I'm a jack of all trades. I could do this, I could do that. I could do 4 things at once. I could talk fast, I could do that. And I'm also very impatient. I want it right now. Who else wants it right now? Who else wants it right now? Aries. Mars and Gemini. Gemini wants it right now. Aries want it right now. You got to get that by understanding the archetypes of the signs. Other signs want it right now. Taurus isn't one of them. So Scorpio is not one of them. Capricorn is not one of them. But you see this theme, this restless theme. Gemini is rising. The chart is ruled by what planet? The chart is ruled by the planet that rules the sign. The chart is ruled by Mercury. Well, where's Mercury? Mercury's in Aries. Let's go. How do you think? Let's go. Do you think long? Let's go. Do you think thorough? Let's go. Okay, you got somebody that's going to jump to conclusions. You got to watch people with Mercury and Aries because they're so excited. They just come off the cuff real fast, and this is true. That's how it is. This is true. And so what do you learn in time? You learn that Aries and Taurus people have a tendency to say something real quick and they haven't thought it through and they sound convincing because Aries is strong, Taurus is strong, but what you learn is they oversimplify things. They tend to. Not all of them, but they tend to. Okay, so he's got a strong tendency to oversimplify things, to be very impatient. And what do you think the Pisces is doing? Pisces is laid back. It's not in any hurry. So yeah, I went into his past life chart. Yeah, I went deeper and I saw these themes, et cetera, and it all made a lot of sense. Okay, but let's keep reading the natal chart because when you get to the harmonic charts, it gets extremely complex. So let's go back to this Mr. Sample. Okay, now we see a powerful, powerful T-square. You see, when I see all these triangles like this, I put all this in one gap. I treat all this as one, certainly all the Aries as one. And to me, they're all the output of this opposition. This opposition from these couple planets and these couple planets is sending all of its energy up here. This is like a person that has a wake behind their boat that's just blowing out like crazy. It's just the phenomenal wake. He's got a real release. Good, unless you don't want that, then they ain't good. Okay, remember, you got a Pisces here. Now, I hope you understand this. It's just evolved through time. When I read for somebody, I unplug them from their sun sign during the first half of the reading. Oh, you're a Scorpio. Okay, well, let's get you unplugged from Scorpio and your mindset agreeing with all these Scorpio things you've read. And let's look at your whole chart. And at the end, I try to make sure that Scorpio part is alive. Because in the end of things, your sun sign needs to be alive. Because it's your throbbing sun. It rules the heart. So I've told you about people I've read that are Aries. I get them unplugged from all the Aries things think broadly. When I'm done, I go back and try to get that Aries heartbeat again because they're impulsive and they need to be. So a lot of this is stuff all astrologers will run into, and much of it is each astrologer is going to run into their own. It is just a truism that in astrology, there are just millions of tributaries. There just are. Now, I always caution you, this is my belief, the farther out somebody gets with their astrology, usually tells me they don't know how to read a chart. And usually it's true. Reading a chart is very difficult. That's not to belittle the person. Sometimes they talk about Regulus and they talk about some star out there and mixing with some asteroid that's at the midpoint of some shadow of some eclipsing, occulting planet. And you know, every third Tuesday at 4 o'clock, their little toe shakes. Okay. What good is it? So, there are lots of astrologers and we're built for many things, to do many different types of things, but I'm really telling you, take big Morton salts with you. Even with me. Don't accept what I tell you unless you put salt on it, taste it, and look around. It's real easy to BS people in astrology. And it's real hard to get it right. So just be aware when you're talking to people. So let's go back to this chart. And I want to look at John's chart too. So he's got all this fire. He's very creative. He's got Saturn in Aquarius in the 9th house. What does that mean? The ninth house is the house of your philosophy. And with Saturn's in Aquarius, he's very concerned for the mindset of people around him, the environment, hugging people around him. He likes to be in groups. He even told me that he has a real thing about he loves being with his friends, but he likes being away from them. He is a real conflict with him. Should I be with him? Should I not? But what was really intriguing to me was this. He kept telling me, and I was missing it, he kept telling me how he's feeling bad separating from the group. Number one, he's in his Saturn return. Your Saturn return, you're leaving your youth. First 29 years. You're graduating from your youth. It's hard. You'll all remember saying goodbye to some of your high school friends and moving on and BSing yourself about, I'll see you later, Scully. You're not going to see him later. So it's a painful process. It's a painful life passage going into Saturn return part 2, which is 28 through 58. Those are your productive years, white picket fence years, pay your dues years. Then at 58, it happens again. Saturn comes around a second time. And people leave their jobs. In the old days, they were able to retire. And you're putting that to bed. You tell the kids, I'm not going to hover over you anymore. I'm graduating from this parenting. And I'm getting ready for my third chapter. 58 through 84, which is my productive years spiritually and getting myself ready for the transition. So he's partially having pain of separating from his friend because of his Saturn return. And he keeps mentioning that he's playing music and he's learning, he's evolving to, I'm going to be myself and I'm going to play my music instead of worrying about what everybody thinks. So that's good. But I kept missing the fact he kept saying he felt so bad when he pleased himself and it was not pleasing to others. So what I finally saw was this, and I couldn't believe I was missing it, but that's what happens. Where's all the fire going on right now? Where's all the fire going on in the planets right now? It's all going on at the 24th degree of Capricorn right now. This is where it's all happening. Pluto's sitting there, Saturn's sitting there, Eris is sitting here. Eris is right on his moon. Eris is sitting on his moon, and when I talked to him, Mars was there too. I was talking to him on the week when Mars and Eris were together on the moon. So I knew immediately This guy didn't come to me last summer. He didn't come to me in 2 years. He came to me when Mars and Eris were on his moon. That's what you have to wake yourself up. And you got to realize that one of the variables about the reading is when he came. Because he didn't come to me. God sent him to this energy field to understand it. I don't know how it works. Here I read for his mother 12 years ago. Why do you wait 12 years to go to an astrologer? So he comes to me when Eris is on his moon and Mars is there. And when it's on your moon, do you think it's going to pay attention to your Pisces energy? No. It wants to know, what kind of new gas pedal do you want? I'm going to give you a big fat gas pedal. Get that. There's a brake. We don't need that brake. Get that out of here. Rear view mirror. Get that out of here. Aries energy. Let's go. 4 planets there. We got to wait for Linda because Linda's she's verklempt and trying to catch her breath. Okay, so we see this is why he's here, because he wants to go. But why is he having a hard time? Because he's hurting people. He doesn't want to hurt people, all the Pisces. Now you see the conflicting themes. Look at this now. Watch this. Bucket pattern to Pluto. Pluto is all by itself. 6th house. Bucket pattern to Pluto. Plus I did his 12th harmonic, his past life. It was all Pluto stuff, Pluto, Pluto. So this kid is really scorpionic. He's very Aryan, and Aries is, Mars is the sub-ruler of Scorpio. He's not very Piscean. He is Piscean. He's got Gemini. Fuck, there's your 4 themes. Then I started to realize that all this stuff's going on in his 8th house. The Saturn return, all this stuff's going on in his 8th house. And what is the 8th house? And the current books will leave you astray. It is my opinion that after reading for many years, that the one area in astrology that needs redone are the houses. The houses have such terrible, I think, attributes and explanations and definitions. I don't think what they tell you about the 2nd house and 3rd house and 4th house, I don't think it's deep enough. And I think somebody needs to do a book on the houses as this book did to the signs. The 8th house is opposite the 6th house. I'm sorry, 2nd house. The 8th house is opposite the 2nd. Everything's going on in fire in his 8th house. What's the 2nd house? Oh, it's the house of money and the things you have and your values. What a terrible definition, that glib definition that you'll read for years everywhere. It's the Taurus house, it's the house of money, your possession, the thing you have, the things you value. BS, it's not what it is. That's part of it. The 2nd house is the house of valuing. Self-value. How much do I value myself? Remember, the 2nd sign of the zodiac has just been handed the initial fire of Aries, and now we have transformed into Taurus. What's Taurus doing? Taurus is trying to ground all that stuff that just happened with Aries, like a balloon flying around the room with no knot in it. Taurus is trying to get grounded to appreciate what just happened. And it's exactly what the soul should do. Taurus is all about grounding. Grounding, gardens, dirt, soil, grounding. Basis, being grounded, very important. Critical donation to the zodiac. And since I realized that the 2nd house is really the house of self-value, what is the 8th house? The 8th house is since the opposite house is always the we house, the me and the we, the me and the we. That's what's in this book. So since it's my self-worth in the 2nd house, the 8th house is about what happens when I'm with you and what do I let you do to my self-worth? That's what the 8th house is. What do I allow you to do through no choice of yours, I allow you to affect how I feel about myself when I'm with you. First house, this is me, this is my identity. Seventh house, this is me and my identity when I'm with you. Libra, it's me and my identity when I'm with you. Second house, my values. Eighth house, what do I do? So you see what he's doing is he's extricating himself from his whole life of making other people too important when it came to how he felt about himself. And that's what he kept telling me. And that's why you don't have to be an astrologer to listen. And I wasn't listening because I was off in complexities. And I said, you got it, man. First of all, you're able to step on that new gas pedal. You're able to put Eris and Mars on that Aries stuff for yours, your Aries moon, and go get him and go get him. And you're not going to hurt anybody. That's the Pisces. I'm really sure you're not. You sure? I don't want to hurt anybody. Are you sure? I mean, they just can't stand hurting somebody. They're so full of love, and you tell them they're going to be all right. Are you sure? So this is natural for him. So he is sent to me, and for one day I am Eris, and I am Mars, and I'm on his moon. Me. And that's the job I'm playing. And I fill him up with high octane gas. Whoo! Right? And he understood it. He understood it. But the final straw was he had to understand. And I didn't even get it till after the 50th, 60th minute. I didn't even get it that he was spending too much time. This is in the past life. He was spending too much time being concerned about when I'm with Claudia. What does Claudia do? What does her signals do that affects how I feel about myself? Maybe Claudia's not even doing anything, but she's a signal like my mother did or my aunt did or whatever. So we all get with other people and we act differently because we're not all perfect social beings and we all have such social hang-ups, and socializing is very difficult and we're all busy teasing each other in first grade. So we do a lot of rotten stuff. So when it all came down to was, you're going through your Saturn return. It's time to leave your youth because you have grown up. It is okay for you to put your Mars down. And we also talked about sometimes your Mars gets you in trouble. Sometimes you just go when you need to stop for a pit stop. And let your Pisces enjoy. Pisces doesn't want to run. Pisces wants to sit back and enjoy the beauty of nature, the beauty of things. So do you see how I had to work with all of his archetypes? But the real key was him telling me, I don't want to go on these websites and play my music and get laughed at again. Whether it's really being laughed at or not, I don't know. That's not the point. He got the picture. He got the videotape. He can now go over it and sort it in his mind. But the fact that he came to me through such a tumultuous time is proof that he's ready to hear it. And not many people will be ready to hear it. Would you like to get a reading when Eris and Mars are right on your moon? It's like it's standing behind a donkey and just waiting for him to kick you. That's exactly what it was. So I think you see the point. Without going into the other charts, I don't remember what it was. I saw the 8th house was really, really, really big. And what that meant was he's trying to release himself into his second chapter of life. He's trying to slow down Mars and Gemini rising, slow down so his Pisces can put some beauty in it. He kept telling me, I'm better when I just start writing and I'm not thinking and it's just coming out of me. Of course you are. You got endless tank on your back and you're just flying around. But sometimes you're going to have to slow down to please that real nature, which is your sun sign. He understood it. Now he's in for a lifetime of dealing with what Einstein did, what I keep forgetting that James Hillman did. All these guys are Aries Pisces. Hillman, Jefferson, Ram Dass, all of them. Great. Some of the greatest minds we've ever had. So I think you get the point. Does that make sense to you? Okay, very, very good. Now we will stop here for a moment, go on to John. Do you have any questions? While you're thinking, I want to show and thank the people who are joining us on YouTube and show you that if you ever want to join us, let's see here. If you ever want to join us live on Thursday nights, just go to starself.com/unplugged. Thursday nights Eastern, 8 to usually 9:30. Just go to starself.com/unplugged, or just put this phrase into Google and it'll take you to the link and you will join us. Back when we were using Zoom when it wasn't cool. We were Zoomers before it wasn't cool. How's that? Now you can't get any help. We were on Zoom when we could get help. And they would call me, sure, you having a good experience with Zoom? Yeah, did you try this? Not now, because you got millions of people on Zoom. Can you imagine how much somebody's getting their butt kicked that works at Skype? Can you imagine how somebody blew it bad at Skype? They're not using it as a verb, or they're not talking about, we're going to Skype you. Quick story, it's worth talking about. I don't care. August, September 1970. I'm in my sophomore year of college, and a couple of my friends came back from fraternity rush. And at that time, ROTC and stuff like that, it was uncool when people were trying to get out of the establishment. And so anyhow, they were making fun of the evening they had with the people trying to get them drunk and trying to get them drinking and slapping them on the back. Come on, buddy, you want to join our fraternity, don't you? Don't you? And they came back and they're making fun of everybody. And from that night forward, we kept calling each other, hey, buddy, hey, bro, hey, how's it doing there, blood? And out of that evening, it just popped out of our mouth. We started calling each other bud. And we are having our 50th anniversary now. We have been together for 50 years. The original 3-4 turned into about 80, but the core group is about 12. We've been camping together. We watch the kids grow up. We all call each other bud. We have parties. We all have the same sign. Hello, my name is Bud on it. We have bud camps. We have bud floats. And this weekend, we're having Bud Zoom. And we really worked well because we don't have any rule. And we ended up becoming an anti-fraternity. And one of the reasons our fraternity works, we all call each other oh bud. One of the reasons our fraternity works is we have 2 bylaws. 1, thou shalt not call another bud before noon on Sunday. 2, you can call them if you have to. So we're on a bud Zoom and a bud reunion. We don't know what the exact date is, and that's horrible for astrology. So I'm trying to find out through the school newspaper when they had fraternity rush in 1970. Anyhow, that's our story. Now let's go on to Mr. John. I will ask to unmute you. You'll have to unmute yourself. We will put John's chart up. Okay, here's John. Now, actually, I could do this for all of you, and I really should do it for all of you over time, because you need to all be taught deeper as to which archetypal forces are conflicting with which. I think you all have a sense of it, but it would be good for me to go into it. Okay. First of all, we see very clearly Gemini. Not many people have 5 planets in their sun sign. Okay. Now, right away, when you got 5 planets in Gemini, I don't care where the other stuff is. You got an initial, You got a Bronco that was born of a Bronco, born of a Bronco. You just got a mind that is so powerful. It's so interested in so many things. It's just jumping, interested in everything. You know, and they always call it ADHD, whatever. So, yes, Colleen, you got that exactly right. So Colleen is a student of mine. She just texted me here. What did we do with her son? 5 planets. She had a son with 5 planets in Gemini. He's about 16, 17 now. What did we do with him at the time he was 5, 6? Is I encouraged her because of all that extraneous nervous energy to get him into karate, and not the trophy type, but the discipline type. The kid did really well in it. It helped him discipline his energy. It helped him learn to project his energy. The kid's 3rd degree black belt. Okay. I don't know where he would be today without that. So when you have a Gemini, you don't want any sign with too much in it. It's just too hard to handle. So I imagine there would be many, many evenings when Mr. John would just hope that his mind would just stop.
I can say I'm a mess of contradictions. I've been told I'm from a different planet. I don't know from astrology what that means, but I am opposites of opposites. Lots of contradictions. Lots of.
Okay. And I must say to you, I have spent a lot of time on Gemini, just about as much as I've spent on Cancer. The signs I've studied the most in writing this book are Gemini and Cancer. I got to find out. Somebody's getting feedback here. I got to find out who it is. It's not John. Could be. We're getting some kind of feedback. Anyhow. Sometimes a chart just has too much of something. Period. And that means that John had to learn a long time ago how to keep his real restless mind happy. Now, I've learned by reading and studying, some Geminis have conquered their mind. Look at David Hawkins. He wrote 8 books, psychiatrist in New York City for 50 years. He wrote 9 marvelous books. He conquered his mind until it was still. Look at his face before he died, 84. His face was well-traveled. You could just see the thought patterns that he had fought the demons as far as he could go. And he ended up experiencing a lot of enlightenment. But he was one of a kind. Now, when you have too much Gemini, you just got too much Gemini. Now, if we're going to interview for who's going to be the mobile library driver for the whole North America, it's going to be John. He's just going to go everywhere and give out books and all that, talk to people and get on the internet, do all those Gemini things. Okay, now, let's go first, before we dance around, let's go take a look at what's in John's. You don't just say there's 5 Gemini, you look inside. Saturn is 4 degrees from the sun. Uranus and Saturn are 2 degrees apart or less. They're not good bedfellows. Mercury and Jupiter are very good bedfellows, and they're in Gemini. And Mercury and the sun are 9 degrees apart. Okay, let's hold it right there for a moment. What do we see here? Oh, Pluto rising. I told you about the angles recently. I got to get this. I got things on my screen getting in my way. Okay, what's down at the bottom? The moon is in Scorpio. Okay, you got the moon in Scorpio square to Pluto, square to Eris. I'm sorry, square to Chiron. Where's his Eris? His Eris is up here in the 9th house in Aries, like everybody, since 1921. His Eris is opposite Neptune. Is wide, 8 degrees, so that's good. So this opposition, which is a philosophical, this is a mental philosophical polarity. The mind, the philosophy, grade school, college. The mind, the philosophy. He's got a dance going on in tension between Neptune and Eris. What does that mean? Well, that's not a simple one, because those are two really heavyweight outer planets, Neptune and Eris. I would have to dig deeper in this chart, but he's obviously got an opposition between, I can see the fight already, what the fight is in the opposition. Neptune wants to just include everybody, no questions asked. Everybody's welcome in my mind. Eris up in the 9th house is just, she's on fire. She's AOC. Eris is AOC. AOC is Eris. Kick butt. That's why they think she's the ruler of, Eris is the ruler of Libra. Anyhow, so he's got this kick butt, wild philosophy opposite this Neptune, which is they take it easy. So it's beside being all the Gemini, Gemini is a data center. You don't have to get complex about Gemini. Gemini is a data center, collecting data. I want to make this long story short, John. When I wrote this book, one of my main reasons was I wanted to understand my Gemini mother, who has passed away. My Gemini mother was very typical. She was all over the place. And I started calling astrologers all over the country. This took 3 years to write. And I said, why is Gemini the twins? Well, there's 2 of them. Yeah, well, of course there's 2 of them. There aren't 3. That would be a triplet. Why are they the twins? I'm running you, well, they got 2 moons. Gemini's not the twins because they got 2 moons. Why are they the twins? Well, I'm sure I am. I got this and I got that. Nobody could tell me. And I was talking to advanced astrologers. And what I came up with, and I really gave it my best shot in the book, and I think it's pretty close. I don't know if it's the answer because it's so difficult a question, because nothing in the zodiac has 2. The scales aren't 2, they're really 1. Everything is a 1. There's 1 goat, there's 1 lion. Why 2? And what I came to understand was this. As Aries goes flitting around the room, Taurus gets it stabilized. The next sign of Taurus goes into the sign of Gemini. The first 3 signs are very subjective. Wait a minute. Objective. They're very objective. Aries is just them. Taurus is just them and their simple surroundings, because that's how they like it. Unless the rest of the chart has stuff in it. But what happens with Geminis is they get interested in this, they get interested in that, and then they get interested in this, they get interested in that. Every sentence has the word interesting in it. Every has the word interesting. So I had to ask myself, and I'm not kidding you, what does it mean to be interested? And I had to spend a lot of times on these concepts. What does it mean to be interested? Interested means I want to entertain it mentally, but I don't really want to get too close to it. Why? Because Gemini is not equipped to deal with it. Now, John's got Pluto rising. John has a moon in Scorpio. John is different. But typical Gemini is about, I'm interested, I want to talk about it, but I don't want to engage with it. Another thing that's very Geminian is the inability to tell the difference between 2 things. Gemini is, ooh, I saw this and I saw that, and I saw that and I saw this, but Gemini is not good. The state of Gemini is not good at telling the difference between the front of your house is on fire, in the back of the house there's a picnic. They're 2 different things. They're both interesting. Then evaluating the difference between the 2 doesn't come until later in the zodiac. This is one of the reasons you see with Trump. One of the reasons with the Gemini sun and his Sag moon and Sag rising, which just augments it, he can't tell the difference of why you can't put some spray inside your body and it should just take the virus away. And he talks about this out of the left side of his mouth, and 2 hours later saying that he just can't tell the difference. And everybody's just freaking out that we got a president that's doing it. He just can't do it. They're not built for it. John's different because John has the moon in Scorpio and Pluto rising. So what I found out, long story short, what I found out and what I published is that Gemini gets to the point where they're so objective that they eventually keep running into the fact that sooner or later they're going to have to get subjective with the thing. You can't just go to an interesting store and find it interesting until sooner or later you're going to have to start a relationship with the people at the store. And they run from it. And Geminis get tortured by the rest of the zodiac. The rest of the zodiac is always on Gemini's back because they're not emotional enough. They're not built for it. Till the next stage of Cancer. And it's all about emotion. So that's why it's very sad, because a lot of Geminis, they're not trying to say they don't have feeling, because they do. But the archetypal level, they're not strong on feeling. They're just so pro-mental. What is Mercury? He's the god of speed, delivering messages, right? So that's where I came up with the twins. The twins is the one that's staying objective, and the one that starts to get subjective and gets scared runs back to the other one. And when you watch a Gemini, that's exactly what happens. Geminis are very evasive, and they're not trying to be evasive because they're malignant. No, malevolent. They're getting out of their territory. Their territories stay on the nice, lighthearted, talking about this, talk about that. Oh, he started to get deep. That's scary. Got to run back. So that's why the two twins, in my opinion. So we've got what with John? We've got less than a bunch of archetypes. We got the Gemini stuff strong. We got Pluto rising, and we got Moon in Scorpio. You got Moon square to Pluto. What does Moon square to Pluto mean? I'm going to tell you guys this right now. In my opinion, it's the hardest thing in an astrology chart to interpret. I've gone on for years with people trying to figure out what their moon Pluto means, because the moon is so complex and Pluto has so many sides dealing with the unconscious, and the moon is the unconscious. Usually it means this: the native and the mother never got along in a healthy way emotionally. Usually. It usually means that the mother took advantage of the child's purity. Not always. I've seen people where the problem with the mother was they had the mother on too much of a pedestal. The mother didn't want to be there, but they put the mother on the pedestal, and the child felt slammed all the time. But the child wasn't right. The mother wasn't slamming them. But it's usually an inequality. Also, another thing that's true, and when I say true, that means I've checked it out a lot. Moon Pluto, it's very common that in their whole lifetime, most of them have uneven relationships with women or relationships. They just get dominated or they dominate. They get dominated or they get dominated. And when you really think about it, they're both the same. Now, Moon Pluto times, like when planets go over, John's got the Moon square Pluto. When planets get involved and hit those two planets, that's when John will have issues of trying to settle this equanimity. Okay? He can certainly do it. So those were little side trips talking about the Moon Pluto, talking about the nature of Gemini. Now, let's take a look. We've got a major Neptune here, and it's all going to Gemini. We got this fight of Eris Neptune all going to Gemini. Okay, we don't care about what the Mars says because it's really minor. The moon is really important. So we really got three things strong in your chart, maybe four. We could say Leo in your chart somewhat, but your chart is mainly Scorpio, Gemini. And it's really rare to have just two. So I would say you have Scorpio, Gemini, Pisces, and Leo. Okay, so the main thematic stress in this chart is the Scorpio Gemini. You can see that very clearly. The main thematic archetypal conflict, Scorpio Gemini. What does Scorpio want? Scorpio wants to dig deep, merge with whatever it's out there, merge with his partner, and Gemini wants to make it interesting. Talk about it. And the Scorpio said, "What are you talking about? Interesting. I want to merge with it." So, once again, I remind you of the image of Joni Mitchell's album in the 70s called Hey Jira, and she's a Scorpio with a moon in Cancer. And talking about that Scorpio need with those talons sticking out, okay? She has a album cover that's shot in black and white, and she's skating on a pond. She's dressed in black, and her arms are wide, and the theme song is Hey Jira, and the words go, "I'm like a black crow and I'm flying in a velvet sky, and I'm diving down on every shining thing." That's Scorpio. Now, true Scorpio is I merge with you. I will never betray you. Tempted Scorpio is to eat, devour, consume, vampire. What do you think the Gemini stuff thinks about all that? And I'll tell you, it's such a bad combination in individuals, but I have seen so many Scorpios married to Geminis, unbelievable. One of my favorite songs to sing. Why don't you sing it? Hey, Jira? Don't pick on me, I'll make you sing it. Black Crow. Okay, Black Crow, all right. You YouTubers are confused because we're typing words to each other that you guys can't see. So that's another advantage of you attending on live. Okay, so let's get serious. One of the main reasons that Scorpios and Geminis marry is because they love mysteries. And Geminis love being the Bob Dylan type of trickster. They love being the trickster. Well, they love being the tricksters because Mercury is very trickster-like, but they also like it because they don't get nailed. And Geminis can't stand getting nailed because Gemini is real afraid of being nailed as being shallow. Well, Scorpio doesn't want to be nailed because you ain't nailing me, buddy. I can nail them in a minute because I see what they're doing, but usually they just run away from me. So, the Gemini is not meant to do stuff heavy duty. It's just not. It's childlike having fun. And no matter who you work with, I was working with one a couple months ago, and she was very heavy duty. I said, "You got to take time out and go play in the sand. You just got to. Go play. You're too heavy." And she just lit up and went, "Wow, I haven't thought about that." So the Gemini archetype is very well suited in the middle of a sandbox. It just is. Okay, so oftentimes this Gemini-Scorpio marriage ends up where the Scorpio has solved the Gemini rather easily, and the Gemini has just given up on the Scorpio. They have no idea how they tick. They can't figure it out. Another reason they're attracted is Scorpio men especially like Gemini youth, and Gemini's one of the signs that stays very youthful for their whole life. Gemini's and Aries, those two signs maintain very young looking bodies and faces and shapes. But the main thing to get into now is this. Gemini is enticed with how does the mind work? It's the third stage. I've got a mind now. I'm not just back on Taurus farm. I've got a mind. I'm doing this stuff I can see. I'm going to go tell everybody all these things. Okay? Scorpio is about, I'm going to blend with you and I'm going to, 1 + 1 = 51. You know, these deep songs about you keep me searching for a heart of gold and I'm getting old. I mean, that Neil Young wanting to merge with the other, the real deep value. So the good thing overall we see in John's chart is the Gemini keeps the Scorpio from being too darn heavy. And the Scorpio keeps the Gemini from being too light. And that's really, really, really important here. And I'm telling you, this is extremely rare because he's built of mainly 2 archetypes. Okay, now, both signs have a tendency to run. The Gemini runs because it doesn't want to be discovered. The Scorpio runs because it truly is trying to be evasive. Scorpio is truly manipulative. Gemini's not manipulative. It's just a scatterbug. It's a little water bug. It's just running around so you can't nail it. Scorpio is always trying to make sure it doesn't get nailed, make sure you don't get the upper hand. Now, this is one of the cases where I will spend the time to look at the 12th harmonic of John's chart because it really is the secret.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Mm-hmm.
About the Gemini? If there's 3 answers to a question, I can think of 10.
Right.
So I became a lawyer. This is very useful.
Yeah.
I know how to talk my way out of anything.
Okay.
Right, but that bothers me. I'm retired now.
Right.
But I was a good lawyer. Could take very difficult cases and win them.
Yeah, I could see it would be very, very valuable
Okay,
as a lawyer. Yeah.
So another thing, I'm a poet, so when I'll wake up in the morning and a poem will just come to me and write itself, and I have no idea where it comes from.
Yeah, but there's only one place it does come from. Nobody knows. It comes from the muse.
That's right, the muse.
That's what Dylan says. That's what Neil Young says. And the problem with that is people think it's coming from them. That's the problem. Oh, I'm going to write a poem today. No, you ain't.
When I read a good poem I wrote, I can look at it and say, I didn't write that.
Of course you can't. And I've seen Dylan interviewed. How did you write like a Rolling Stone? I have no idea. How did you do it? I have no idea. Could you do it now? No. How come? I don't know. The whole story keeps coming back to one thing. And that's what this show's based on. Secondarily, it's astrology. This show's based on one thing, that there's only one of us. There's a lot of questions about it, and that's why Nook Sanchez is going to be our host or guest on January 3rd. She's an expert at this. There's just one of us. Let it go. It'll come out. Let it go. It'll come out. Now, you also, I will take a moment to look. You also have Mercury next to Jupiter, okay? And you do have Neptune informing this T-square. So Jupiter and Gemini, stuff just pours out of you, okay? Now, the thing is this. We're going to look at your 12th harmonic to see the motivation behind why you took this life. The point is now, what good is all the Gemini doing you? We just talked on the phone, and you talked about different types of experiences. And those types of experiences are symbolic of you're surpassing, you're transcending the Gemini. The Gemini, there are 3 levels of knowledge in the zodiac. There's the Gemini knowledge, which go get some data. Ooh. The Libra knowledge, which is, hey, this is what's happening on the streets. This is what happened on the street. This is how you play the game of life. Okay? Then there's the Aquarian, which is the brilliance, the genius level. how you put the whole thing together mentally. So you have to ask yourself, and I see this on a lot of people's charts, what good is it to you to bring 10 more books home? You don't need any more books. Now, for a long time, the Gemini does, because the Gemini learns by book, and I eventually put it together. Aquarius gets 2 books and they got it all figured out. This saying, study a blade of grass and you can be enlightened. That's an Aquarian mentality, because they go so deep into what's true about a blade of grass is true about a cow. It just is. But the question comes, why you keep getting books? Why you keep getting new URLs? Why you keep watching this show? Why do you go to that movie? Because what I know about you is you understand that what matters is the state of consciousness that you are in. And you know that. So I know that my show is a brief respite for you. There'll come a time when you won't come back. And that's probably what you need to do. But let's just get a little deeper here for a second, since it's 10 minutes to go. We're going to take a look at your 12th harmonic. Now, for people that are not familiar with the 12th harmonic, I'm working on a new book about that as a big part of it. Here's your 12th harmonic. And the working title of the new book is The Intimate Zodiac. Okay, let me talk about the 12th harmonic. When I do readings for people, and I read for people just about every day, I look at the natal chart, I look at the 12th harmonic, I look at the 6th harmonic. I look at other things also. Those are my main ones. The 12th harmonic is constructed by taking the position, like you got Jupiter in Aries at 6 degrees. Jupiter's in Aries at 6 degrees. The 12th harmonic is the number of Pisces. So by looking at the 12th harmonic of that chart, you're changing your lenses, you're zooming in on the number 12, which means I'm looking at your spiritual life, because 12 is Pisces. 6, I look at the Virgo life, your purpose. 12, I look at the spiritual life. Okay, some people say, many people into harmonics say you can't do what I do, but I do what I do and it works, and I really wish they would try it. They're very accurate. So what I've come up with the 12th harmonic, I know I read Claudia recently and did hers. The 12th harmonic is, in my opinion, your spiritual transcript. It is the document that you're looking at with your spirit guides, because you've just taken 75 lifetimes. What has been the flavor of those lifetimes? What has been the theme of you spiritually? Because when you get away from this incarnation, and when you get into your spiritual incarnations, what you find is all those incarnations are all about God. They're all about leaving God, offending God, getting forgiveness from God, trying to go back to God. That's what they're about. Until you get here and you forget about it, and you got a camel you got to feed, and you got to find the grass. Right, Linda? You got a camel you got to feed, you got to find the grass, and you got to find the water. So now you're not thinking about God, you're thinking about the camel. Okay. So the 12th harmonic is, to me, John sitting with his spirit guide right before it takes a life, saying, do you want to take another life? Yes, I do. What qualities do you want to work on in this life? What qualities? And you start to build your predetermined role playing, and mom's going to be the brother this time, sister will be the grandmother this time. You're all going to play these roles. I'll get beat up when I'm 9.5 years old, and I'll lose the use of my right arm, whatever. We set all this up in our script so we can have certain experiences. What I'm learning, and I think this is really neat, what I'm learning is this. We do this because, in my words, we want to alter our behavior in the next lifetime so that we're more assured of getting in the pearly gates. Now, what's so fascinating about that is what I've learned from people is we're always wrong. We always think that if we do this better, God will be more willing to accept me. The whole point is God's already fine. It's already. Secondly, God doesn't need worship. We need worship. God doesn't need worship. That's our ego doing that. And what I'm learning now, and this is wonderful because I had to answer the question of why do we get 80 new planets in 2006? Why? That suggests a great leap forward. And the leap forward is we're learning that it's all going on here. It's all just a dream that we're making up here. And you don't have to kiss butt to get through the pearly gates because there aren't any pearly gates and there is no hell. And you're already cool the way you are. So that's what I'm learning. And I think that's marvelous to come across that type of mentality at the same time that the United States is going down the drain. Isn't it? Because both are true. You better go up and down, Waldo. Because I know you think so, and you're not in America. Anyhow, let's go to his 12th harmonic. But I think I just kind of had that realization myself tonight, and I think it's wonderful. Because the 80 planets that came to us in 2006 is an indication that we made tremendous leaps psychically in our ability to absorb and be informed by multiple new archetypes. So let's look at his 12th harmonic. Remember now, John, this is the chart. You sit with your spirit guide. You say, John, you've been doing this all these years. And what type of thing would you like to correct in your next lifetime? And when I read for you, I go back and forth between the 12th harmonic and the natal chart. Back and forth, and I can see where they're related. What do we see in John's chart? First of all, there's a bucket pattern to the moon. Let's ignore Chiron for a moment. The moon is all by himself. So we know that primarily John has been a bhakti yoga type of person all these lifetimes. He's been a heart-centered type of yoga he's followed. But the moon is in Virgo. The moon is very emotional by itself, but it's not emotional when it's in Virgo. It's very technical, robotic. Let's keep looking. Look at the T-squared it's screaming at us. Venus, Mercury, opposite Chiron, T-squared to Saturn and Taurus. Uranus in Aries sitting on the ascendant. Here's the beautiful God worshiping. This is wonderful. People have Jupiter, Neptune together when they're really into searching for God, when it's the real thing, and it's in Aquarius in the 11th house. Tell me these charts don't work. This is somebody that wants to take his buddies and his groups to God with him. He wants not to go by himself. He wants to share what he knows and take the people with him. So it's very clear. He's very emotional. But this, I think the problem is this. This Uranus is only 4 degrees from the ascendant. And I think this Saturn is very, very strong. But this planet right here is incredibly anxious and impatient. He wants it now. And you got the Taurus there, is very strong, but he wants it now. So what do you do in the birth chart? He's got this history of wanting it all now. And if he didn't have such a fever for wanting it all now, he might get it. So what does he do with his birth chart? And I told you most of us can pre-construct a new lifetime. Linda's having a good time. I wish I had a tape of what she's talking about over there, because I loved having her in my class. So you got all this impatience, and you take a lifetime with 5 planets in Gemini? So I'm not sitting in judgment. I'm trying to understand. So we sit now and we flip back to the birth chart. So we got this chart. It sounds to me very simple what this chart is about, why he took this lifetime. And usually when I get to this point, it all becomes complete to me. It just becomes complete what this lesson's about, what this moment's about, what this vision is about. You put the 5 Gemini planets there because you didn't want to lose all of the strong input. You were just gaining so much knowledge. You're just such a knowledge freak. You know, with the Jupiter next to Mercury, give me more. Let me suck up every book. I got 6,000 books next to my bed. They're all opened. Okay. But after a while, you learn they're saying the same thing. Going up the north side of a rock is very similar to going up the north side of a house. Similar, different shapes. So it's obvious that whatever you did with I'm presupposing, but I've been through regressive hypnosis, and I've been with Stephen Poplin, and I've been on the edge, and I've been there, and he's taken me in regressive hypnosis, and he's saying to me, do you want another life? And I'm saying no. And there's this humongous waterfall next to me, right next to me. And Stephen is right here. This is 20 years ago. He said, do you want a new lifetime? No. And he pushed me into the water, into this huge waterfall. And I went and down and up inside my mother. I was stunned. I was up inside the fetus. 1952. So I don't know how that part worked, but I'd love to get Stephen back on the show to talk about this because he's written 2 books about it. So you obviously took this lifetime and said, by God, I still want a lot of data. And maybe you said to yourself in this lifetime, I don't know, maybe I'll finally learn that if I just keep eating words and reading books, I'll finally get satiated. But you put Pluto on the ascendant and you put Moon in Scorpio. Okay? Which means I want to start drawing from all that meaning. I want to start drawing from that meaning. And in the truest sense of Scorpio, what it means is to merge with God. And you don't have to merge with God. We talked about this today. You don't have to merge with God because you already is Him. That's what I have to say. You don't have to do something. You have to undo it. Stop doing stuff and it'll just happen. And boy, if that ain't the reversal of if that ain't putting the American dream in reverse, huh, Waldo? So, John, what do you think about what I said?
I totally agree with everything, and really, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything.
Explain that to me, because we're going to have an expert January 3rd talking about this. What does that mean to you when I don't have to do anything?
Well, the stress is on the word do. I don't have to do anything.
Okay, so then what do you do when you're not doing?
I am. To be or not to be.
Well, you are exactly right, in my opinion.
Once I am a being, I'm everything.
You're talking to me what Yogananda said, what Ram Dass said, what the Course in Miracles said, all of them. But what we're so American is go get one. I'm gonna go get one. I'm gonna get a good one. Right? Well, you're exactly right. It's very much showing in the chart, evident. I'm very shocked to see that you were that insistent before this life, but I think the difference between your last life and this lifetime is you've been convinced for a whole long time that more data was your solution. And for a long time, more data was your solution. And I challenge anybody in the world, if they want to have an argument, a spiritual argument with John, good luck, because he's gonna be ready for you here, there, whether it's Hindu or whether it's Zen, whatever. He's ready for it. So I think it's a marvelous example of what can be. Usually you don't see charts like this. It's really rare to see that Eris opposite Neptune in the 3rd and the 9th house in the chart. That shows me Eris opposite Neptune. It shows where you're trying to make peace out of such a chaotic planet like Eris. and how Eris is trying to take Neptune and put some life into her to make her not so passive. So what I can say from this, besides the really cool stuff tonight, is you are going to be in a huge demand these next several years, because we're going gaga in this country and people on the earth. We're going gaga, gaga, because we just don't know where it's at. And thankfully, the religions are dying. And I mean that in the best sense. Of course, I like the brotherhood, sisterhood, companionship. But the brain dead, respecting this and saying these words, is going to get you somewhere. Thank God that's dying. We're starting to learn that God is inside us. So what do you have to say about tonight's reading about the astrology part?
Well, I don't understand astrology. I'm trying.
You don't have to.
But I get the ideas, the thoughts.
The concept.
Absolutely. And I think I'm all over the chart. I think, I've really been everywhere. I've seen it all.
I think you have, man.
I've seen it.
I think you have.
I think it's just so wonderful to be alive and to be able to love, which is what it's all about, and to be in union with everything. That's what life is for. That's why we're here.
My friends, I don't have anything to add. I think he said it so beautifully. We are honored to sit with you. I will ask, what was the turning point? Can you pinpoint a turning point in this lifetime when you finally realize that more data ain't gonna get it?
It's when I had a vision of God, mystical experience. I can't remember it. It was too great, and it only lasted moments, but it changed everything.
Do you remember the approximate year?
Yes, I remember the day and the hour.
That's exactly what I want to hear.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was November 1999, I think November 10, and it was at about between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I don't need the hour, but I really appreciate this. Let me get the double charts going here. Okay, so we're seeing your enlightenment. Usually it happens when a person's 35, I've found. Usually.
37.
The books on enlightenment say 35. What was the date? November what?
It was November 1999. I think it was November 10. I could be wrong on the day.
Yeah, that's good enough. Let's go take a look at what's happening then. We're going to look at the outer ring, November, and the inner ring, the birth chart. See what we find. Okay, so we see on November 10th, 99, the hour is just going to move the moon a little bit. That's no big deal. So here's the birth chart in the middle. Now, let's take a look at the outer planets. What was Pluto doing at 9? Pluto had just passed over his sun during that year, a couple years before. This is a good time for my mouse to freeze up. Okay. Pluto and Neptune had just crossed the descendant. Okay, I need to look no further. There was your mystical experience. And I would say to you, because it was at 1 degree 48 minutes and your ascendant is 1 degree 07, that we should change your birth time to be a couple minutes later, or maybe even 30 seconds later, because that Neptune was probably exactly on there, and Neptune hits your Pluto. And what Neptune does, I will give it to you in very clear astrological terms. Your chart conceived of power in an unrestricted way. You saw power itself,
Absolute power.
absolute power. And I'm telling you that you have actually had the risk at that time of having your nervous system completely overwhelmed.
I was about to become an agnostic.
Yeah. Okay, what you got was a real gift. It's very rare. A lot of people your age went through that at the same time. All the people your age had it, but they didn't have it on the ascendant. They had Neptune opposite Pluto, but not across the ascendant. So that's a wonderful thing, the story. But the thing I'm going to end with tonight, because we've gone long, is I don't know what you're going to do. I know you're going to be led to it, but you're going to be leading a group. You're going to be leading a group because that's what your chart promises, and that's what we need you to do. So now I can sign off, and Linda can sign off and laugh hysterically all she wants. Okay, thank you, Sample One. Thank you, Erica, everybody, Waldo. John, thank you very much.
Okay, good night.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank.
Claudia, thanks to all of you. Have a good
Thank
night,
you. Good
everybody. We'll
night,
see you next
everyone.
week.
You're great tonight. Yay.
Very good. Thank you. Love you all.
Love y'all.
Bye-bye.
Love you.